making these little mini books, and I know that I've made them, I think it was about 6 or 7 years ago, and they have a live stream where I did them, and I'm getting ready to go to a crafting retreat, and I just thought, well, what could I bring that isn't, everybody has everything. So, yeah, I'm going to make these little mini books, and then I'm going to turn them into, um, book charms, or like, dangles off your, yeah, like a book charm or a dangle off your junk journal or something like that. So I thought I'd bring you along. So I'm using product packaging. This is from a cake box, and I thrift everything. So I had thrifted and made several years ago a quilt out of men's dress shirts. So you can make it out of anything. I think the ones I made 6 years ago were all just out of 100% cotton fabric that I got at the big box store. But what I'm using today is thrifted men's shirts. So this is going to be the size of my book, which I think it's about 2-inch square. I don't know. I didn't measure them. I made a whole bunch of them. So, and they're not, you guys, nothing I do is ever exactly the same. So, and I need a spine. So I'm just going to use the leftover portion of the, the side of the cake box and make the spine. And you guys, it's not perfect. So if you want yours perfect, I would say measure it. But mine's not perfect, so that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it down. I'm going to use a PVA glue to glue it down. I'm using Aleene's tacky glue, and mine is a particularly old bottle, so it's very thick, but use what works for you. All right, so that's basically going to be how my book layout is. And so I'm gluing this side of it. You can glue either side, it doesn't matter. And then I'm going to lay it down. And like I said, this glue is super thick, so it's going to adhere fairly well. Now I will say, using a cake box, the material is a little bit flimsy, so if you wanted like a more substantial or sturdier book, then use chipboard, or use like the back of a pad, a writing pad. Those have really substantial chipboard in them. And I'm just going to leave a little bit of space between the little spine and the front and back cover. And because I didn't do mine 100%, I just want to make sure it's going the right direction. I didn't measure it 100%, so sometimes my sides aren't even. Okay, so that's step one. And then I'm just going to cut. I'm going to leave about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch all the way around. I mean, you do what works for you. Some people are much, I like to leave room for a possible mistake. So I'm probably leaving a little bit more than I should. But you're going to cover it the same exact way that you covered, like if you were going to do a large journal. And then I'm going to miter the corners so that it lays down flat. The corners lay down flat. And then I'm going to go back to my PVA glue, and I am going to just glue the edges so that when I pull the fabric over, it stays. I did these one year as brooches for teacher gifts, and that was fun. You know, just got a pin back and put it on there. Or the other thing you could do is, I'll show you when I put the little wire on top where it's gonna hang off of a clip or hang off beaded. I'll show you. Hang on, I gotta grab some tape. Okay, I'm gonna use to keep my spine, I don't know, better. I don't know. I made these so long ago, and I used masking tape, but I'm using painter's tape because that's what I can find in my house. And you're not gonna see this, but I'm gonna put it down so that it sort of adds to the little bit of strength in the spine. Of course, I didn't cut it straight. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull my sides up. Pull my sides up. Like I said, that Aleene's tacky glue is so, mine is super thick because it's a very old bottle, but it really adheres when it gets this old. It really adheres very sticky, which is good for this project. I'm going to put a little bit of glue where the tape was because obviously the fabric isn't going to stick to the tape without having some more glue. Now I probably should have left bigger miters on the end, but you can mess with it. It's going to be a mini book, so you know it's not perfect. And if you guys wanted to do some faux book corners, you could do that with metallic marker or some of that aluminum tape or even aluminum foil. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add, so for the closure in my little mini books, I have just put some embroidery floss to tie them. And you can see here's the little ring. I don't know if you can see it. So the embroidery floss. So that's what I'm going to lay down right now. I'm going to lay down a piece of embroidery floss for the tie. And you use your discretion on how, if you want a bow or whatever, you know, how much you're going to actually use. I can't say that all mine are the same because they aren't. So, you know, I think it's preference, personal preference. And the other thing that you might want to consider is that you could even use ribbon or anything like that. Now I'm just going to glue I'm going to put some glue in the middle to hold down my little tie. And then I'm going to go back with a piece of tape, and then I'm going to tape over it. So far we have two things with our, you know, we've got the beginning of our mini book. Two pieces of chipboard, then one in the center for the spine. We've glued it to done the fabric. And now I'm going to make the loop for the eye ring. Now you could just put a piece of, you could also do another piece of embroidery floss if you wanted, but I'm gonna hang mine off of I'm going to put some beads on it, so I'm going to hang it I'm going to hang it off of some beads. So I'm just using some round nose pliers, and I'm just going to make one loop like that. I don't know if you can see it very well. And then I'm going to use my fingers. Your fingers are your best tool, because the more you mess with metal, the more work hardens, and depending upon what you're going for, you can break it. So I'm just gonna use my fingers, and then at the very end, crimp it down. So that's what I'm gonna stick out of my book, at the top of my book. See if you can, here you probably can see it better like this. All right, so I'm gonna stick mine straight down the spine like that. So I don't need all of this. And it's going to go to one side or the other. I wouldn't worry about it too much, but you can adjust it until it dries. And I'm just going to glue I'm going to put a little glue down the spine, and I'm going to put glue on the little piece of metal, and I'm going to put it right in the middle on top, just like that. Then I'm going to go back again with my tape, and I'm going to tape it down at the top, and I'm going to tape it down where the tip is. Okay, so right now we have our covers in our spine, and we have our little jump ring on the top, and now we're going to work on the pages. So I'm doing 8 pages, because 8 pages, actually, if you wanted to journal every day, it would give you a little bit of space. It's like for a daily journal, that's what you would need. But you put it in as many as you want. And now I have a mix of painted papers, hand-dyed papers, music paper. I have ledger paper. I have a mix of them, so here's 8. Now what I did is, I know that my paper is going to cover, my first page is going to be like the fly leaf that covers this, right? So I put my biggest page first, and that's going to be this dictionary page. And I'm just going to put mine to one side and fold it up, because it's like a mini junk journal, and doesn't have to be perfect. Now you would need an awl or a pokey tool or something to poke through your signatures. I'm just using a big needle, and I'm eyeballing it. I'm not making it perfect. So just be careful with this. And if you have a book cradle, do it, or do it into a phone book or into a book you're not using. I'm a renegade, you guys. I just go for it. Because it doesn't have to be perfect. Now I have a darning needle and some embroidery floss, and I'm going to do a 3-hole pamphlet stitch on this tiny journal. And I'm going to leave my tail on the inside, but you can do it on the outside the same way you would do any type of binding for a book. You don't even need 3 holes, you could do 2, but I'm doing 3. And now I'm just going to tie it. I'm going to tie a knot. the signature. I'm going to double knot it. Okay, now I'm going to come back to my book and I'm going to put more of my tacky glue on all over the base of this book. And I'm going to try to get it as close to the edge as I can. Guys, I'm so excited to go to this craft retreat. I haven't been to anything like this in such a long time, and I'm just so excited to just hang out with friends. And I don't even know what I'm going to bring, the project I'm going to bring to work on. You know, I have a million UFOs, right? Or unfinished objects. I have a million going on, so I'm sure I have something, but I'm sure it's just going to be fun to be with all the people. Okay, so now I'm going to fold my book in half, make sure my words are going the right direction. And this is really the only sort of fiddly part, so I just want to make sure, and I realize the pages are too big, but that's okay because I can cut them afterwards. I'm just not going to cut them close to the wire. I'm going to leave this part free. So when I cut them off, I have all that stuff to do on the bottom, right? And as you can see, it is not perfect by any means, but that's okay. That is okay. And so now I'm just going to cut off my excess. And then I'm going to let it thoroughly dry, because when you're using wet glue on this very thin chipboard, you want it to be thoroughly dried before you start embellishing it more. Now I see I'm going to have to cut off the pages there, but I think I'm going to wait until it completely dries before I do that. I'm going to lay it flat like this under something heavy and let it completely thoroughly dry before I go to the next step. So here I'm going to show you some of my finished products for all my friends, for my creative crafty friends. And yeah, I went back and I pigtailed beads on all of them, and then I hooked them to one of these little clips. You know, the end of the clip comes off, you can just pull it off, you know, squeeze it together and pull it off, and I put it through. So that's my little project for the week, and I'm going to put this up after I'm at the craft retreat because I want the little books to be a surprise for my beautiful friends. And I may go back and you know, I haven't put any pockets or anything in the journal, but I think I may go back and put in some pockets, or maybe a little tiny envelope or something like that. Anyway, it's just a beautiful, fun way to be creative and crafty with what you have around. Anyway, my friends, thanks again for hanging out with me, and until next time, from my heart to your heart, I'm always sending you so much aloha. Bye for now.